Hey guys, and welcome to or back to the Pause and Pursuit podcast with your host, Summer Clark. How are we all doing? I'm doing actually quite fabulous this week, and I will tell you exactly why. But first of all, introducing today's episode. So today, this is a requested topic for a solo episode from you guys, and it is how to build a training plan that works. Obviously, I'm big on setting goals and creating yourself and your dog a structured training plan that is going to work for both of you. It aligns with both of your learning styles and how you progress. And it's really important for us to know how to build those training plans because it can be really difficult to know where to start. That is pretty much what today's episode is going to be about. I'll just be telling you how to build a structured training plan that actually works for your dog, because there's no point copying other people's training plans for their dogs because every single dog is different. Same as structuring workout plans for humans. It's the same principle. Everyone has a slightly different training plan because of how their personal body and brain works, and also what goals they want to achieve. That is my stomach rumbling. I don't know if you heard that. I did. But yeah. So that is today's episode topic, but before we jump into the meat of the episode, I didn't like that, I'm never going to say that again, I'm so sorry. First of all is what I've been up to this past week, a life update as usual. Again, all I've got for you is an injury update, but it is such a positive one. Guys, okay, I finally decided, you know what? Skip the NHS because they're useless for this problem. Not saying they're useless in general, but for this problem they have been absolutely useless. And I decided just to, you know what, screw that, I'm going to pay private. And I went to a physio, and this physio was recommended by someone in agility. So that I had more faith in this physio because she's had experience with people who do agility and want to come back from injury to be able to do agility at the highest level again. This was a previous junior Team GB member that, recommended this to me. So, I was like, you know what, this is perfect. Similar situation. Let's go see her. She is amazing. Honestly, amazing. Turns out she actually had the exact same metatarsal fracture as me. This physio I saw I can't remember when she said she did it. She recovered in 3 months. Obviously, she got straight to work from the get-go, being a physio, having the knowledge. But she's a road runner, so obviously injuries happen with running. But she had exactly the same injury as me, as well as a stress fracture in a tibia as well, which is like the lower leg, other side of the calf. Think of it like that. So that immediately made me think, great, she's been through this process herself. She knows exactly how it's going to pan out, which, I can't even tell you the relief to actually have someone to give me the proper knowledge and proper advice and get me on a plan to recovery. But yeah, basically, she said it's about time that we start learning to use that foot again, because I haven't been putting any proper weight on it for 2 months now. So she was like, we need to wean out of the boot. Luckily, I'd only been wearing the boot for a week, but that really did help to stabilize it and stop it hurting, because when it was hurting, I was getting those sharp shooting pains under my toes when the foot was flexing. So having the shoe on did help for a week, but she said, let's start weaning out of the shoe, and you're going to have to start walking normally with full weight on the right foot. And that did scare me initially, because last time I did that, it was agonising pain and reminded me what a long journey this is going to be. And I did cry. But this time I was just a bit more confident, because it's all in your head, isn't it? Like, it's fascinating how it works. So the brain literally says to you, don't do that because last time it really hurt. So when I go to try and walk normally, my brain's going, don't do that, it's going to hurt. And she basically used a pain scale. So she told me to use that. So a 3 is fine. No, sorry, a 3 or a 4 out of 10 is fine on the pain scale, because it is going to hurt after not using it for so long, especially, the other muscles in the foot and stuff like that. 5 or 6, you're progressing too fast, go back to the previous step. So I was like, that's brilliant, great, that's clear in my head. Anyway, so I basically just started walking normally, and yes, all the muscles in my foot did ache, especially along the bottom of my foot. Not necessarily the fracture site, just my foot in general, because it was like, oh my God, you haven't used me in 2 months. What the hell? It's like if you don't go to the gym in 2 months and then go back, you're going to be sore afterwards. But again, pain was like maybe 2-3 max. And it was more of an ache, none of that sharp pain. So I continued doing that. A week later, there's barely any pain and I'm walking normally in the house without the shoe, which, oh my God, guys, I could cry. I can't even explain. I could cry happy tears just to walk normally, like with no pain, and know that it is healing and it's getting better is unbelievable. I've been in such a good mood this week, honestly. I'm still using the shoe outside, just gently wean off it. Again, we don't want to overdo it. But next week, I will be scrapping the shoe completely. So the shoe's gone and I'm back to walking normally. Then it's about increasing how much I can walk. Then it's about, walking faster, then jogging, then, do you get what I mean? Progressing like that. So we'll just see how that goes. I still don't think Olympia is going to happen. It's like a month off now. Actually, today's the 19th of, it's exactly a month away. And I'm not going to lie, I just don't want to risk it. I want to, I just don't want to. I don't want to. My balance is off again. Everything's just off with that foot. It hasn't been conditioned to go back to sprinting and changing directions. I'm not only worried about the fracture site, when I get back to running, it's the rest of the foot because the muscles are weak, my balance is off, my ankle could go, the bottom of my foot could go, muscles in my foot could go. Do you know what I mean? It's not necessarily the bone that fractured I'm worried about. So I still think that's not going to happen. But overall, I at this point, I'm not that fussed. I'm like, it's fine. As long as I'm back for February GB tryouts, which is our next major event after Olympia. And the physio said, you'll be well better by February. And I just want that. That is all I want now. I don't want to risk that not happening by running in December. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to pull out till I definitely know for sure, because a miracle could happen. The physio says it's achievable, but again, it's up to how I feel. So we'll see how I feel nearer the time. But yeah, really positive as far as injury update goes. And yeah, that is pretty much all that I've been up to lately. I actually woke up to lots of snow this morning, so that was fun. Got some pictures, etc. Been cracking on with lots of coaching work for my online students, and also a few more new little series for my Instagram, TikTok, etc. that I'm filming. I'm doing a Back to Basics series now. Every Wednesday I'm posting that over on my social media. And then I'm also working on some new tricks with Arrow just to keep his brain engaged. We're currently working on Hold, which we have actually mastered, and I will be posting that on social media in the next few days, so look out for that. But without further ado, let's crack straight into the episode. So just a reminder, because I've been rambling for 7-8 minutes, today is all about how to build a training plan that works for you and your agility dog. So straight into it then. Number 1 is know and list your dog's current strengths and weaknesses. So you've got to remember that there's no point in basing your training plan around the skills and behaviours that your dog is already good at. You want to focus on improving your dog's weaknesses. Now, this was something that came up in the Team GB debrief that I attended lately, and it was how we as handlers and dog trainers and competitors, we have a bias to wanting to basically just repeat what we know we're good at because it feels good. It gives our egos a boost, and let's face it, that is what we all enjoy about agility, is that feel-good feeling of satisfaction when we master a skill and we run a course that's smooth, or do a skill that feels smooth and perfected. But realistically, during training, we need to be targeting the weaknesses, the things that we're likely to get wrong and our dogs are likely to do wrong. Because yes, it's going to go wrong to start with and it's going to feel not great. But the only way to break through that and actually get to a point where your dog understands this thing is to, practice it, basically, and figure out what's going wrong, why that's going wrong, and ways to approach it differently to fix the issue. So that's really important. But so you don't get too down on yourself and your dog, make sure to also list your dog's strengths. Even though you won't be using those in the training plan, it is great to remind yourself of where you're at and how far you have come. and then list the weaknesses. You'll probably find there's less weaknesses than strengths as well. And then you want to base your training plan around the weaknesses so that you can get better at them. But you can still incorporate the strengths because, we want to enjoy agility, but we mainly want to be getting those weaknesses covered in our training sessions. So number 2 is to choose 1 to 3 of your dog's weaknesses to base your training plan around. So if you choose any more than 3 to focus on, this will limit the quality of your training and how often you can train each area. So 3 at the very max. Often I'll just focus on 1 for a while, often 2. I probably don't even focus on 3 a lot of the time, but any more than 3, don't go there. Just focus on a few at a time so you can fit ample training sessions in, focusing on each of those weaknesses. So you want to design your training plan so that you are alternating these focus points and covering them all equally. So for example, when Arrow was learning a running dog walk and the weaves at the same time, I would alternate. So maybe I would do a running dog walk session one day, a weave session the next day, then have a rest day, then running dog walk weaves, if that makes sense. So making sure that you get equal amounts of sessions on all of the weaknesses that you are focusing on. If one is slightly weaker than the other, or you want to prioritize one more than the other, maybe you could do 3 sessions on one thing like a running dog walk and 2 sessions on the weaves, hoping that you will progress with your running dog walk slightly faster than your weave. So it is totally up to you, but just make sure that you have that weekly plan laid out so that you can cover all of your areas equally. Number 3 is to work around your schedule, be realistic, and incorporate rest days. So these are probably the most important part of creating a training plan. So you want to construct your week so that you are guaranteed to fit your training sessions in. For example, again, it's all about setting yourself up for success. During our training sessions, we set our dogs up for success, by making it easier for them at the start, maybe, what's the word? What is the word? Not law, but prompt them into doing the right thing so that they get that in their head, if that makes sense. So it's the same for you. So for example, if you work late on a Wednesday every week, make a Wednesday your rest day because you can just not worry about fitting a training session in. If you finish work at 7 p.m, you don't have to come home and think, oh, for God's sake, I've got to now train. Because that's setting yourself up to fail because you're probably going to come home at 7 and be really tired and not want to train and then miss it and then feel guilty. Whereas if you just have that as your rest day and train on the days you finish a bit earlier and you have more time, you're not as tired and you have more willpower and you're more likely to train, make them your training days. So always give your dog at least 1 rest day a week to avoid injury or burnout. Realistically, more than 1, but 1 at a very, very minimum. And again, you don't want to be hammering your dog with courses every day, 6 days out of 7 of the week, really. Do you know what I mean? The sessions I'm on about are sort of smaller sessions, skill-based sessions that don't require too much impact and, short sessions as well. So, yeah, make sure you at least give your dog 1 rest day. Training 3 times a week and having 4 days off is fine. You're still going to make progress over time, but always make sure your dogs have days where they do absolutely no impact training, no, even low impact training. Your dog needs a day where they don't have to necessarily be working, quote unquote. So don't be afraid to just do nothing on a day, at least 1 day. Okay, that's fine. And it's good for both of you as well, because it'll keep your motivation up to train as well as your dog's and reduce the likelihood of injury or burnout for your dog, but also mental burnout for you and injury for you as well, I suppose, if you are doing some course running throughout the week. So don't aim for 5 sessions a week if you know that you only have time for 3. So realistically, you have to be really, really realistic and honest with yourself. So if you know you only really have time for 3 training sessions a week, schedule 3 training sessions. Don't think, I could probably push and get 5 in. This will only demoralize you and threaten your ability to stay consistent, because if you set yourself up for 5 training sessions a week and only do 3, in your head, that's a fail. Whereas if you schedule 3 and do 3, that's a success. That is what will keep you at it every week and make you less likely to want to give up, because you'll feel like you are achieving what you have set out to achieve, which we all love. So number 4 is to have an achievable goal in place for each skill or behaviour. So, for example, if you want to teach a running dog walk, visualise what the end result will look like. So that's super easy, especially with the use of social media, watching other people's running dog walks. You know, maybe you've got a particular role model, a particular competitor or trainer, and their particular dog that has a stunning running dog walk. You can watch that, visualize that in your mind and think, that is my goal, that is what I want to achieve. And that will help you to mentally pinpoint when you've achieved it, how close you are to achieving it, and what you have to tweak to achieve it. So if your dog is doing a running dog walk and it doesn't quite look like what you're visualizing, think, why not? Does it need changing, or is that just how my dog is different? And if it does need changing, how can I achieve that? And if your goal is a specific event, avoid the temptation to rush the process in order to meet this deadline. This will only hinder your progress in the long run. For example, if you have a show booked in for 2 months' time and you want a running dog walk by then, so you rush the process so that you can compete in agility at that show. That's not going to be a good idea, because you're going to get there and your dog isn't going to have a proper solid understanding of a running dog walk. You're going to do that in competition and it's just going to set you back even further because your dog has picked up the wrong idea, and then that's going to take even longer to retrain. So instead, just do jumping at that show. Don't put that pressure on. Or if you're retraining from a stop to a run-in, think, just going to use my stop at that show. Don't rush the process. Nothing is worth rushing the process. If it's really that important an event and you need something by then, start training after that event and just go with what you have at the moment, And if it's a young dog and you're trying to achieve a goal so your dog can come out at a certain time, there's no rush. Your dog doesn't have to come out at a certain time, In the big scheme of things, push it back until you've achieved that thing and can do it properly. Like I've always said, and I say this about even me going to Olympia this year if I go, I'd rather not do something than do it half-assed, if that makes sense. Like, I want to be able to put everything, like, full send into something. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it properly. Same with this. If you're going to create a training plan and train your dog to do something, do it properly. Don't cut corners. Don't half-arse it. Don't skip stages. Don't rush. Do it properly, okay? Always. I promise you it will pay off in the long term. Missing that show or event because you and your dog aren't ready, or your dog coming out a few months later than someone else's dog or what you wanted them to come out at. In the big scheme of things, it isn't going to matter. 3 years down the line, you're not even going to remember. You're just going to be glad you did it properly, because your dog should hopefully now have a brilliant skill that you train properly from the get-go. So number 5 is to make a note of each stage that is involved in reaching your goal. So again, if you want to teach a running dog walk, for example, make a note of the following stages. So you've got your mat on the floor, mat on a flat plank, mat on a raised plank, mat on a full height plank, and so on. And obviously there's going to be like little stages in those stages. So with the mat on the floor, there's lots of different setups you can do. Get really specific, okay? So note down the big stages that I've just said, and then under each of them, the sub-stages. So the individual setups during that stage, if that makes sense. So for example, mat on the floor, the different stages would be manners minded to mat to manners minder, and then straight over the mat to the manners minder, and then wing mat manners minder. That's all with the mat on the floor. So the mat on the floor is the main step, but within that step, there's sub-steps within that. So you want to get really specific like that and note it down, write it down, whether you handwrite it, put it in a Word document, anything like that, notes in your phone, just have it written down to read and to understand. It's going to make it so much easier if it's in front of you and you can see it rather than just having it in your brain, because if you're anything like me and you have a busy brain, it's impossible to organise your thoughts without writing it down somewhere, basically. So number 6 is to know what you are going to do prior to each session and make a note of your progression criteria. So this is so important. Before you go into a session, know exactly what you're going to do and how and for how long. For example, running dog walk, mat on the floor session with a wing mat manners minder. Know that you're going to do that for 10 minutes, okay? Know that you're going to do this many reps on the right and this many reps on the left, if that makes sense. And then also know your progression criteria. So Yeah, so for example, I've written this down. If you want to teach a running dog walk, know that you're going to spend 15 minutes working on your dog's ability to hit the mat on a raised down plank and only progress when they are hitting the mat with at least one back foot at least 95% of the time. Yeah, so that's a better example that I already had written down, actually. So let me say that again. So you go into the session knowing that you're going to spend 15 minutes working on your dog's ability to hit the mat on a raised down plank and only progress. So that's what you're going to do in the session and for how long. And then this is your progression criteria. So, and only progress when they are hitting the mat with at least one back foot at least 95% of the time. Once this is happening, you can progress to the next step, which you will already have written down as per the previous point that I made about writing down your, each stage that is involved in reaching your goals. So as I go on, you're probably starting to understand how to sort of structure and organise and plan your sessions over how many weeks, months, etc. Okay, so it's really important to know what you're going to do and when you can actually progress, because the last thing you want to do is progress too quickly, because as we all know, if we progress too quickly in our training sessions, our dogs won't have a proper understanding of the stage of the behaviour. And then when we move on, they're absolutely not going to get that because they didn't even understand the previous step, okay? So, as I keep saying, do not rush, don't progress too fast. Just don't, okay? Know when you can progress and stick to that. So basically writing your own rules and sticking to them, knowing that it's for the greater good. Short-term pain for long-term gain. Yes, it's a long, lengthy, frustrating process, but it's going to be worth it in the end. Trust me on that one because I've been through it. So, nearly done now. Number 7 is to keep sessions short and account for this when setting your time frame of teaching your dog a skill. So, for example, don't give yourself a 2-month time frame for a very complex behaviour that's going to realistically take 4 months, okay? And yes, you never know exactly how long your particular dog is going to take to learn a behaviour, but at the same time, we generally know, from talking to others, online courses, etc., the rough time frame that it might take us to teach something. So, if you did set a 2-month time frame for a complex behaviour, for example, this would require a lot of training in a very short amount of time. And if you want to maintain your dog's drive and focus, you don't want to do this, okay? You want to avoid this where possible. You don't want to do loads of long sessions every day because your dog's drive and focus is going to go down. They're more likely to get burnout and injury. You're not going to enjoy that either because it's a drag. It's going to feel like a chore. You're going to get bored and lose interest as well. Again, all these things are going to make you less likely to be consistent, and consistency is key when trying to achieve a goal. So again, it's all about setting both of you up for success. So keeping sessions short. My sessions are usually 15 minutes max. If I do 20 minutes, I do 10, have a 10 minute break and do another 10, if that makes sense. I usually don't do sessions longer than that. So yeah. Number 8, and the final point here is feel free to incorporate some of your... actually, before we move on to that, so keep sessions short and account for this when setting your time frame. So think, I'm going to be doing short sessions. It's going to take a little bit longer than if I was doing long sessions. So don't plan your time frame as if you're hammering you and your dog. Don't think, if I really hammer it, it could take this long. Be realistic and think, no, with short sessions, maybe 4 times a week, for example, this is the time frame. That is your time frame. Okay, so give yourself more time than maybe you even need, if that makes sense, because again, you're going to get to that time frame and think, I'm actually quite ahead, or I'm spot on the time frame. It's better to think, I'm ahead of the time frame I had planned than, oh God, I'm near it, I'm behind, or do you know what I mean? Because that's going to make you want to rush, and the main thing about all of this is to not rush. And finally now, the last point, number 8, is feel free, and I did quickly talk about this at the start of the episode, is feel free to incorporate some of your existing strengths into your training sessions. So again, I'm not saying only ever do the things you're bad at, because we do love to do the things we're good at because it does feel good, and we do agility because it feels good and we enjoy it. So you still want to maintain your dog's ability to perform the skills that they are already good at. So you don't want to completely scrap the skills your dog already knows because, again, what's the saying? Use it or lose it. Yeah, use it or lose it. If you don't keep practicing things every now and again, your dog may become rusty. So, for example, when I return to agility after injury, that'll be like 3 months off proper agility. When I start running with Arrow again, he's probably going to be off his head, okay? So, and that's a use it or lose it. He hasn't really used it, so it might take a bit of time to get back into it. Not that he's lost it, but you get the drift. Also, with my foot, I haven't used it in 2 months. I've lost the strength and balance it had before. Doesn't mean you can't get it back, but it's going to be harder to get it back. So you still do want to be maintaining those skills that you can do and your dog can do already. And like I said, in addition, we want to continue to enjoy our sport and feel good whilst doing it. Asking for existing strengths is a great way to reset your dog as well if you experience a failure chain. So failure chain sounds quite harsh, but let me explain these. So this is where you kind of get stuck within a session. You're in a bit of a rut, like your dog just does not understand, may have 5, 10, failed reps in a row. And both of you are getting frustrated, visibly frustrated. A great way to reset both of your mindsets is to ask for a behaviour they already know. So, for example, with me teaching Arrow hold lately, if he fails several times in a row, then I might just ask him for a left and then reward him and, wow, yeah, you did it, well done. And then maybe have a break or end the session. Or, try again after that. It kind of just resets both of your headspaces into a more positive frame of mind. And as we know, as I've said lots of times before, and it is common sense, dogs and humans learn and function better with a positive headspace. Goes without saying. Okay? So guys, that is the episode of this week. I really hope you enjoyed that. I think it was a bit of a longer one than normal, actually, which is fun. But yeah, you guys loved my episode with Greg Derrick last week. I think that is probably... I actually don't know. I think my podcast episode with Kamal is actually the most popular. But the one with Greg Derrick has skyrocketed. It's got basically just way more views than my normal episodes, which is expected. And I'm so happy about that. I'm really happy that you guys found that so interesting. I absolutely loved that episode. And I'm glad you guys obviously did too. Exciting what's coming up in the next week is I have a podcast recording with Natasha Wise tomorrow. So actually, by the time this comes out, I will have done it. But that is going live a week today. So next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Natasha Wise, and we're going to be talking about the evolution of agility over the years, which is so exciting. And you guys asked a ton of questions for Natasha to answer. So yeah, that is going to be next week's episode, which I know you guys will love. Expecting a great response from that episode as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have much else coming up except another physio appointment for my foot. And yeah, until next Wednesday, that's pretty much all that's going on for me. Not complaining. It's nice to chill. It's nice to rest and recover. Very, very important. But anyway, that is pretty much it from me this week, guys. I hope you benefited from what I had to say in this episode about structuring training plans. If you have any further questions or anything like that, please do feel free to DM me on any of the social media platforms. Make sure you're following me as well at Pause in Pursuit on all of social media, because I'm super active over there, doing loads of TikToks lately, because like I said, I have way more time resting. And also I am, as I said at the start of the episode, I am doing some new series at the moment. So we've got Back to Basics and some trick training series as well. Bit different. But yeah, I want to start putting out more educational content over on socials as well as here on the podcast. So yeah, follow me on all of there. If you're feeling really generous this week, please do leave the podcast a rating or a review, ideally 5 stars. That would mean the world to me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And yeah, please do keep sending in your requests for both solo and guest topic ideas. I always do cover what you guys ask for. So if you send me a suggestion, I will cover it in a future episode. Also, don't forget, I do offer online coaching. One-to-one online coaching. So if you would like to be coached by me online to achieve your agility goals, please do get in touch. And I also still have my online running dog walk course that is available to purchase. So if you're interested in either of those things I have on offer, please do get in touch and I would love to chat to you about them and get started. I love working with you guys. And that's pretty much it, I believe. Without further ado, I will sign off here and I will see you next Wednesday for the Natasha Wise episode. Bye, guys.